Hey, everybody. This is Carrie Ann King, sometimes known as Carrie Schaefer, whichever author person you prefer to be hanging out with at any given time. And this is Tell Me Your Secrets, which is one of the shows on the awesome Authors on the Air Global Network. And today I am really excited to have a chance to talk to Gretchen. Hi, Gretchen.
Hi, everybody.
So I'm going to tell you before we even go any further, we've been having like a series of unfortunate events with this this whole podcast. Let's see, it started with Gretchen's camera stopped working on her laptop. So she was running around scrambling looking for a camera. And then I realized that I thought I had my laptop plugged in all afternoon, but I actually didn't. So then I was on this quest to find an extension cord and get it plugged in so we have enough battery. And then my internet died. So we're currently plugged in. Well, actually, there's free internet in the building, which I've never used before, but I just logged into it and it seems to be working. So fingers crossed.
We are bound for a great conversation. We are, because if technology is trying this hard to stop us, there's like fate.
Right, exactly.
A great conversation.
We're meant to talk together, and this That's is right. Honestly, I have to say straight up front, when I got your book, I didn't even really think about this when I said, okay, I want to interview Gretchen, because the book is called The Kids Are Going to Ask, and really, honestly, that was what got me before I knew anything about the book or you or anything at all. I love the title.
Oh, I'm so glad. I almost didn't, I had to be convinced of that title. But,
oh, really?
Because I don't know, I was like, was it clunky or whatever? And I remember every time I would say it to people, they'd respond like, oh, I love it. So yes, thankfully it was the input that made me keep it. So I'm glad you like it. And I'm really glad that it attracted you to the book. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So what title, can you tell us what title were you looking at to begin with?
This was the one that came to mind, but as I would tell it to people, I'd be like, I don't know if that's going to work. And they're like, I love it.
Yeah.
Then on the other side of me, I was like, well, good, because I don't have another one.
Oh, that's perfect then. That works, right? Yeah. I hate that sometimes publishers change the title on you, and I had to do that.
I've never had a title changed on me, but yeah.
I had to change my working title for Everything You Are was Life in C Minor. So the whole time I was writing this book, which is about a cellist who, loses his music, it was called Life in C Minor. And when I went to publish it, they're like, readers don't buy books with music things in the title. So you need to come up with something else.
I love that title.
I know, me too. But yeah. Wow. They know all,
That's
right?
The past, right?
Right. So now here we are with show us the cover for the people who are here and can see. Oh, there we go. The Kids Are Gonna Ask by Gretchen Anthony. And and then once I got it, I'll see Michelle loves the title.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle.
Catherine says the title makes me want to know more.
I'm liking all these.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So what's really fun with this book, this is really I feel like we're in this sort of little meta world here, because this is a video cast podcast about a book that's about a podcast. So it's
we're very meta.
Really meta, surreal and fun. Tell us a little bit about the book, if you would.
The book is about 17-year-old twins, Thomas and Savannah, and it takes place in my home state, Minnesota, in Minneapolis. They start a podcast in order to find their biological father, who they never knew anything about, a few years after their mother dies in a very unfortunate and freak accident. They're being raised by their grandmother, and their mother hadn't really told the kids or her mother much about the father at all. So they end up starting a podcast to find him. They get offered the opportunity to start this podcast with a national broadcasting company, and it goes viral. And because it goes viral, there are some immense reactions to it publicly, and it turns their lives upside down in the process.
Right.
So Yeah.
Here's the other thing that's really funny, and I'm not going to talk about my books all night, but I do have to mention this because
No,
it's
we
weird to
should,
me.
right?
I was surprised when I started reading because I hadn't thought about this, but my first book as Carrie Ann King it's called Closer Home. And there is a teenage girl who wants to find her bio dad, and they go on a quest with a DNA kit from Walmart, no less. finding all the people that her mother had slept with that she wrote in a journal when she was, young, right?
I gotta read that book, Carrie Ann.
And then the paparazzi get involved. So and there's this slimy guy named Dickon who is very much like your slimy guy. His name is
Sam Tamblyn.
Sam Tamblyn. Yeah. And I'm reading Sam, and I'm like, oh my God, we kind of, we were on a wavelength, and we didn't even know each other. So that was very fun.
We were kindred spirits. Yes. See, we were meant to have this conversation. I have to pick that up. Tell me the name of it again.
It's called Closer Home.
Closer Home. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
So read us a little bit from the book. I love to hear authors reading from their own books. And I know a lot of my readers like that too. Oh, look, Michelle.
Yeah,
she has
I love it
twins who are 16, boy and a girl.
Oh, Michelle. Oh, I will read from the book, but my son was 15 and 16 when I was writing this book.
Oh,
and
wow.
I based Thomas and Savannah on physically and a little bit personality wise. They're certainly not carbon copies, but I definitely based them physically on my son, whose name is Connor, and his best friend, who is a girl. Her name is Sarah, and they're opposites in every way, including physically. And I always loved watching them interact, and that's one of the reasons that I was inspired to base the characters, especially physically, on them. But just having a son that was so close in age and writing these characters, and now my son is 17, so he's 17 as the book gets published. It just, writing this book was unlike writing those two characters was unlike any other book I've written, because there was something deeply personal about them.
Sure. So
even though the story is not theirs.
Before you get into this, how does your son feel about all this? Is he okay? Or is he a little bit embarrassed? Is he like, Mom, people are going to think it's me? Any of that going on?
He doesn't care.
That's good.
Care. Yeah, thankfully he doesn't care. I also think that even though there's been a fair amount of YA traction on this book, which we didn't expect. I also think he's this teenage boy. He's like, who's gonna know? So
his friends. So it's a little, it has a little bit of that YA, but it's definitely, I don't know, definitely for adult readers too. So anyways, read us a little bit, and then we'll talk some.
Okay. So you asked me to read from the first page. So
that's what I was thinking. But if that doesn't work, I can't remember, because you have text messages or something at the begining. I don't know. Just read whatever.
No, it's a prologue. So it starts 3 months. This is a prologue that
right. That's right. I remember now. It's awesome. Yes, it's brilliant.
Okay. July. The house had become an aquarium. One side tank, the other fingerprint smeared glass, with Thomas LeClaire on the inside looking out. There had been a dozen protests outside their home in less than a week, all for the LeClairs to what? Enjoy? Critique? Reject? There was no making sense of it. Tonight, Thomas pulled his desk chair up to the window and kicked his feet onto the sill. He'd been too anxious to eat dinner, but his mind apparently hadn't notified his stomach, which now growled and cramped. He was 17. He could swallow a whole pizza and wash it down with a half gallon of milk, then go back for more, especially being an athlete. But that was before the podcast, before the secrets, before the wave of national attention. Now he was just a screw up with a group of strangers swarming on the parkway across the street from his house because he'd practically invited them to come. He deserved to feel awful.
Yeah. Poor Thomas.
Poor Thomas. I know. We are kindred spirits here. I can feel it.
Yeah. So this book is told from basically 4 points of view, mostly 3. So we have Thomas and Savannah, the twins, and then we have Maggie, the awesome grandmother. I adore Maggie. We're going to talk about her in a minute because she is so fun. And then, and we won't talk about the 3rd point of view yet either, because, well, maybe we won't, because that's kind of like a little bit of a spoiler, maybe. So, but Maggie,
well,
what? Go ahead.
It sort of is, but we'll leave it. We'll leave it. It sort of is.
We'll leave it. We'll just let them know there's another point of view later. So Maggie, is this amazing, you guys? I love characters like this. She's an older woman. She's doing the absolute best she can to raise her teenage grandchildren, and she's this person that just she's quirky. She's as quirky as
she's quirky.
She brings people into the house. Anybody she meets is a friend, and she's always meeting these fascinating people. So she brings them home for dinner. And this is how the twins originally got into podcasting, because Savannah needed a project. She was going to do a podcast, and they began having dinner conversations with Maggie's dinner guests. And it's so fun.
I love that you love Maggie.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. I have a soft, I love quirky characters too. Thanks, Michelle Ann. I have a soft spot for Maggie, especially. A lot of Maggie's characteristics are actually based on my mom, particularly that characteristic that you name, where I call Maggie a people collector.
Right.
She just loves people, and she just gathers them into her life. And her husband was the same way, who you get to know a little bit in the book, because he's already passed away when the story opens. But now her daughter's gone. Her husband, who she adored, is gone. And she's got these 2 teenage twins who adore her, but teenagers have their own lives and their own concerns, and they kind of disappear from your life in a way, even though they're there and they're present. And so I think of Maggie as as a lonely extrovert.
Yeah.
She's used to having all these people around her, and I love the fact that she just keeps pushing. She just keeps grabbing people and bringing them into her world, because she can't survive without that. And my mom was constantly doing that. I would come home and I'd be like, who is this person who's coming over for dinner? Yeah, that was my life, part of my life growing up. And my dad was like that too. They were both people collectors. They just loved meeting people, which is really great for becoming a writer, because so many stories.
Great story. But are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I am just extroverted enough to play one on TV. That's how I put it. Technically I'm an ambivert. I'm like right in the middle. So I can tilt to either side.
Yeah. See, I can do this. I'm not shy. So, but it takes energy for me. Having people around is exhausting. I lead a lot of time alone. As a matter of fact, our youngest son, he's totally an extrovert. And so he was raised with me and my Viking and his older brother, who are totally introverts. And this poor child, the only extrovert in a family of introverts, right? And he's kind of like Maggie, he's a people collector. And he would just say, you don't have any friends. You need friends. And we're like, no, we don't. No, we don't.
I don't know what would be harder, being an introvert raised in a family of extroverts, or the opposite, like your son.
Either way.
I don't know what would be harder. Yeah. Either way.
I think either way would be difficult. So, podcasting, and I didn't know this until just before the show, that you actually do it's a live book group, which is kind of like a podcast. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's called the Just Gotta Laugh Book Club. And so I'm just in the process of actually putting the finishing touches on season 2. So I'm going to plan out the entire season in advance. And so it goes from the first book is September, and we go all the way through May. And I pick I specifically pick books that lift your spirits, either make you laugh or show you good people, or, you know, and I started it in the middle of the pandemic, the early pandemic. Go figure, I just needed, number one, I needed a creative outlet. Number two, I needed a community. And even though I am, extroverted, you needed to connect, especially when you were.
Oh yeah.
So there was so much anxiety, and I wanted ways to feel better, so that's how I write humor. I write humor with heart is the way I like to think of it.
Absolutely. Sure.
And I just felt like, let's lift these books up. And I love to feature female writers. I like to feature a lot of women writers. So if you want to check it out, check me out on Facebook. It's at my Facebook page is Written by Gretchen. Yeah, it's Written by Gretchen is my Facebook page. So you can see everything there, and all the videos from season 1 are there. We had some great guests. Lots of laughing.
This is see, I love this because I love books like that. And I've been talking, my friend, by the way, if you have not encountered Maddie Dawson books yet, those are right up your alley for what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Matchmaking for Beginners and the sequel to that. It's just like, they're awesome that way.
Okay, thank you.
And we were just talking yesterday. We went back and watched Serendipity. We went and watched the Serendipity movie. We absolutely love this, and we kind of watched it together, like separately, but so we could talk about how awesome is this and how good do we now feel, right? And then what other movies are like that, and what books that have that? They make you cry, but they also make you laugh, and you feel good at the end.
Yes, absolutely.
Michelle, yes, we can put it in comments at the end. But it's just Gretchen writes, right? Facebook /
Written by Gretchen. Or the same information is on my website. Yeah. Okay. And my website is GretchenAnthony.com. So you can get it all there. Yeah.
Okay. So
I gave you the harder route.
If you're listening to the podcast, Gretchen is spelled GretChen. Anthony is ANTHONY. So you're looking for GretchenAnthony.com, or you can go to Facebook, and I keep forgetting again, Written by Gretchen.
Written by Gretchen. There was already a Gretchen Anthony. I couldn't take it.
I know. I got lucky with the Carrie Ann King. Actually, because I made up the name, I did a bunch of research before I grabbed it to make sure that I could get the things I wanted. So
that's very smart. That's very smart.
So this book is so fun. Now, this isn't your first book. Is it your second?
No.
No.
It's my second book. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my second book. My first book is called Evergreen Tidings from the Baumgartners. And that is also a family comedy, just like the kids are going to ask. And it's about an overbearing mother who just can't let go of the control of her daughter's life. And she finds out that her daughter is expecting her first baby with her lesbian partner. And
how fun.
My main character has to navigate the waters. And it's called Evergreen Tidings from the Baumgartners because throughout our 30 years worth, samples of 30 years worth of her Christmas letters. She always writes these over the top, my family, look how perfect my family is, Christmas letters every year. And so I use those throughout to tell the history of their family and the way she looks at the world and things like that.
So fun.
Yeah, that's a fun book too. Yeah.
I have to read that now. See, I love that. That's great. So are you working on anything right now? Do you have, anything else in the works? Another project? And you don't have to tell us what it is if you can't. Some people don't.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So I know I found that out the hard way. Because I'm really open about it. I didn't realize that some people were really sensitive about it.
I can't talk about it or it dies. Like, I almost forgot. I had a brilliant idea for a book before I came down to my office and then had all these things I had to do and I almost forgot. I have to write that down before I forget. So thanks for the reminder.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So my editor at Park Row and I are still trying to work out what the next book is with them, but I think we think we're close. But I actually have an audio book only that I'm in edits with at Audible. So I'll have an Audible original coming out.
Oh, cool.
yeah, and yeah, that's about a wellness guru whose life is not nearly as perfect as she would like to think it is. So,
Oh, that
working
sounds
title
fun.
is Meditations with Mia Blue. Yeah, we're not
With
sure. I'm
me,
not sure if
sorry,
that'll change, but that's the working title.
our sound connection isn't quite perfect due to the fun internet. So it's Meditations with
Mia Blue.
Mia Blue. Okay. All right. Perfect. Now tell me about this, just doing Audible only. That's not something that, is done really often. I know it's done, but how did you come to decide to do that?
Well, they have their Audible Originals program. So Audible, works with different authors to prepare, an audiobook that gives them some opportunity to focus in on audio as the medium. Because if you're writing for audio specifically, it's a little bit different than just having your written novel narrated. And so this book has actual meditations from this wellness guru in it, and so you hear these meditations, and right now, I don't know if we're going to change this, but it has like a celebrity gossip person who also does a lot of rundown on what's happening with her story as it unfolds. So it gave me an opportunity to do something that I hadn't done before. And, I went about it just with my agent. She had another client who did an Audible original, and I listened to it and I loved it. Kelly Harms. Kelly Harms is the other one. Yeah, and it's a Thanksgiving story, and I'm blanking on the title, but it's really great. If you have Audible, it's really fun.
Oh, that's such a cool idea. And I like the idea of, because it would be a little bit different writing. So it would be a different challenge, and that's always fun and fresh and keeps you creative. And
yeah. So
I have
in the works right now.
I seriously have to go look at your book club now. I love that you're doing something like that. That is so cool. And it's a little bit different. Book clubs tend to be the more of the dark, serious books. Let's talk about all the deep themes and,
Yes.
So
not mine.
No. So I'm really liking this. So Gretchen, where are you in the world? I didn't ask you that.
Minneapolis. Yeah. Minneapolis. I'm a Minnesota girl. I grew up here, and then I moved away for 20 years and swore I'd never come back. and then, or almost 20 years. And then my husband and I did move back. And so all of our kids, I went to graduate school in California shortly after college, and then lived, did the whole corporate life in San Francisco, and then I moved to Denver, and actually met my husband in the process. And so all of our kids were born in Colorado, and then we moved back to Minnesota in 2011. And shortly after we came back here, about 2 years, I had been in corporate communication and change management consulting my entire career. And shortly after we got here, I had this, I had a great job and everything, and I went through a layoff. And it was one of the best things for me. I think everybody should go through a layoff at some point. It teaches you so much about yourself.
Funny how often it's something like that you think is a bad thing, and it actually turns out to be the best gift ever, right?
Yes, it was such a gift. And there were gifts along the way. As a part of my package, I got hooked up with this executive coach who was going to help me figure out what the next thing is. And one of the things he asked me was, well, what's something that you want to make sure that you don't come to the end of your life having not accomplished? And of course I said, well, I've got books in me. And he looked at my resume, and he's just like, well, I can tell you're a person who gets it done. So just trust yourself that you're going to get it done. And I was like, okay. And sure enough, and at a certain point you realize the clock is ticking. If you're going to get it done, you got to get it done.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
That was that moment.
That was your first book then. And
no, that was my starter book. That was my starter book where you write it. And then eventually I took it into like through a few master classes. And my teacher looked at me eventually, and she was like, this is the book. Here's what I want you to do with it. I want you to open your desk drawer and put it inside and close the door and start your next book. She's just like, that's your starter book. You learned everything you need to learn about it or about writing a book. Now you need to move forward. And I was like, okay. And she was right. I mean, she was right.
Yeah, but so many people don't listen to that, and kudos to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all know authors who are still working on the same book that they started writing 15 years ago and are unable to let that go and write something new. And you have to write something new. I have when I'm asked for my roles for writing, it's like finish the book. Finish the damn book and then write another one. It's like,
yes,
or and then put it away and write something better. Always be writing another book. That's, anyway, that kind of, because you learn something.
That's true.
Every time you learn something. Right.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if it was Susan Orlean or somebody was getting interviewed, some huge name was getting interviewed, and they asked her about her writing process. And she said, my writing process is different every single time.
Right.
Which is not that her discipline is different, but every book has its own story related to its process.
Right, exactly. Every book requires something different of us. So Susie wants to know what the publishing process was like for you. So did you, your second book, did you get an agent right away? How did you find an editor? Yeah. How did that go?
So, so after Baumgartner's was the book that I took to agents and that we shopped. That was the first book I ever took to agents. So I had a pretty good experience getting an agent. I didn't have one of those experiences where they flew me out to New York and I got to have my pick. And they weren't bidding on me. Yeah. But thankfully I read somewhere that you don't have to panic until you've gotten to 60 rejection letters from agents. And so don't even think about panic until you get to 60. And I think I got to like 28 rejections, which doesn't feel great. Don't get me wrong.
No, it doesn't.
But I got to like 28. And then my agent popped up and she was like, I've been in the process of, doing something and I'm way behind, but I love your book and let's talk. And so it's just, you just meet the people that you need to meet at the right time.
Yeah.
And she kept saying that when she would shop it to, publishing houses, she would say, you're just waiting for that magic click in an editor's brain, and you can't predict who it's going to be, and you can't predict who's going to fall in love with it enough to put the work into it.
Right.
Until you find them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so much fun. All of it, it's an adventure, and every book is a new adventure. So I'm so delighted that
every book is a new adventure.
We were definitely meant to talk.
Thank you. I am too.
So we'll have to talk after. So just a reminder, everybody, this is Gretchen Anthony with whom I'm speaking. The book is called The Kids Are Gonna Ask. Super fun. You totally want to read this. Let me see, what else do you want to know? You want to know that Gretchen's website is gretchenanthony.com. And if this is the podcast, again, it's spelled GretchenAnthony.com. Pretty much like you'd expect for Gretchen Anthony. And then Facebook, you're going to have to tell me again. This won't stick in my brain.
It's written by Gretchen.
By Gretchen.
Just go to the website. It's got everything.
Great. And now, are you on Instagram or any of those?
Yeah, Instagram is easier. Instagram is GretchenAnthony.writer.
Okay. Great.
Yep. And if you're a Twitterer, I'm on there too. I'm at GR Anthony. I used to hate Twitter until I met all the librarians on there.
Oh yeah.
And the fellow authors.
See,
I
have the back.
I try to limit myself to that.
I loved Twitter. I started out on Twitter. That was my first social media platform and absolutely adored it. And I had friends and we talked there all the time and we had so much fun. And then it just kind of got kind of ugly and there was a lot of negativity and I'm hardly ever there anymore, honestly. Yeah. So it's just, I go where the happy things are, which is why I now have to come check out your book club. So.
Thank you.
Anyways, so that's it really for today. I thank those of you who were here live with us today, and my people who are listening later on the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be back again next week with another awesome guest. Also, please just stay tuned for news from me, because I'm starting to wind up for the launch of A Borrowed Life, which is out September 22nd. So check out my website at kerryanneking.com, KERRYANNE.com. And I have a fun sampler there for you of all my books. If you want to download that, you can read the first chapters of everything and see if you like it, to make it easy. So thanks again for being here. Check in again next week for another awesome guest. And Gretchen, thanks again so much. Best of luck with your book, this one and the next, and everything to come. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Bye-bye.